is about to jump out of a mile-high airplane, even the actor or actress who's about to go on stage. All these people are experiencing what in a biological sense we'd call stress. The key here is that they expect to resolve the stressful situation quickly and competently. And what they derive from that is a sense of accomplishment and excitement. They still feel in control. It's when we can't cope with a stressor expediently, or when we perceive the stressor as beyond our coping resources, that stress becomes chronic and harmful.
Our body systems aren't designed to stay on continuous alert. When stress becomes chronic, even at low levels, it becomes hazardous both to our emotional and physical health.
An individual's susceptibility to stress is probably both biologically and sociologically determined. We know that certain personality types, what we call type A's, experience more time urgency. They may finish other people's sentences, become irate when required to wait in line, and continuously have several projects ongoing simultaneously. Typically, they're also more volatile emotionally. The same events that evoke a great deal of stress in type A's may hardly create a blip on the radar screen of easier-going types we call type B's. Exactly how much of this is environmental and how much genetic, we don't know. We do know that type A's are much more likely to suffer from cardiovascular ailments, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, and strokes. And we believe that stress is a contributing factor.
Stress is unavoidable. Nevertheless, by understanding what stressors are and what stress is, we can minimize unnecessary stress and keep ourselves more healthful, both mentally and physically. To some extent, we can even choose what we'll perceive to be stressors. Now, let's look at 3 general approaches to managing stress. The first is avoidance. We'll look at ways to manage your lifestyle so you can minimize the stressors you encounter. The second is short-circuiting, methods to take situations and events that you now define as stressors and redefine them as non-stressful. Third is mitigation. We'll discuss techniques to alleviate the most harmful effects of stress.
Often, people aren't fully aware of those activities associated with the most stress. Suddenly, in the middle of a day, they find their chests are growing tight, they're perspiring, they're angry, irritable, and they really don't know why. Taking time to assess which activities cause the most stress can lead to important behavioral decisions that improve people's lives.
Shopping is stressful for some people, while inactivity is stressful for others. Often you can arrange to avoid activities that you know you'll find stressful, which can make a real difference day to day in the stress you experience. But we're not always able to identify those items that cause us the most stress. Try keeping a journal. Plan to make entries in the journal at regular intervals. Write down how you are feeling each time you make an entry. If you're feeling stressed, consider what has taken place during the past hour and determine what you have been thinking about during this time period. After a while, you may find that 1 or 2 events are key triggers. For example, you may discover that being late for work, for a meeting, or even for a social engagement makes you feel stressed.
Fighting the clock is one of the most common stressors for several reasons. First, lateness may be interpreted as being rude, and as such, it incites status anxiety. Second, our bodies interpret a need for fast action as an emergency situation, and the general adaptive response is set off. And third, being late or rushed may decrease our chances of performing successfully. Lateness threatens our security by undermining our competence. Technology, in some ways, has exacerbated the time problem. Electronic media allow letters to be sent immediately, so people often delay actions to the last minute, making it more difficult to plan and schedule activities. Easier said than done, but the solution is to manage time so that you don't get into a catch-up mode.
Going to bed earlier. Getting up earlier. Saving time by pre-planning weekly wardrobes, or just allowing 5 more minutes for every activity could significantly reduce your stress. A common source of stress is activity overload, so setting priorities is essential. Try creating 3 lists. On List A, identify the things you must do, listing them in order from most important to least important. On List B, identify the things you hope to accomplish. On List C, list the things that are unimportant. Then, start your day by doing the things on List A, completing the most important tasks first. Move on to items on List B only if there's time. And forget about List C. Knowing you're always working on the most important item will ease your anxiety. Short-circuiting is based on the simple truth that something is not stressful unless we allow it to be. We're cutting off, ignoring, or redefining something that could otherwise be a stressor. An example is commuting. For many of us, it's a miserable experience. Yet for a surprising number of others, it's a quiet time, a transition period between a hectic home life and the challenges of work. These drivers probably still complain about the commute, but they don't let it ruin their day. Instead of worrying about being in the fast lane or making the next light, they accept the commute and redefine it as personal time. Sometimes it's other people who cause us stress. Short-circuiting says, this person must be having a bad day because there's nothing I've done that deserves this rudeness. Recognizing that you're not the cause of the problem allows you to ignore the behavior that's nonsense, while still listening to what's useful and essential.
Is it possible to change how we react to external events? The answer is an unqualified yes. A technique called cognitive restructuring allows us to redefine events psychologically. How we view events can affect how we react to them.
For example, if you find yourself in a crowded store where service is slow or even non-existent, and where your attempt at calm assertiveness has gotten you nowhere, you have 2 choices. You can suspect that others are getting better treatment and become angry and stressed. Or you can view the situation differently. The people who work there may be inexperienced. The store may be unusually busy. What you interpret to be rudeness may result from a lack of training or a cultural or personality factor. Instead of feeling personally offended or threatened, you can be understanding. You can find a magazine to read while you wait in line, or try to appreciate the humor in the situation. It's useful to ask, will this really be important 5 years from now? Of course, the answer nearly always is no.
We all have inner conversations with ourselves as we go through our days. And sometimes the nature of those conversations can affect the stress we experience. For many highly stressed people, the ongoing conversation is negative. They put themselves down, call themselves stupid, lazy, or idiotic. These conversations are too harsh. A positive, forward-looking inner conversation, one that emphasizes self-praise and forgiveness over self-condemnation, does reduce stress. It seems that people who go through life being reasonable with themselves and others actually do experience less stress.
While we can't prevent stress altogether, there are ways we can help our bodies tolerate it and return to a normal state more quickly. A good night's sleep, one unaffected by drugs or alcohol, allows your body systems to recover from stress. A good diet also speeds up your recovery. Laughter and exercise help. They raise blood levels of endorphins, naturally occurring analgesic chemicals that can have mildly euphoric effects. And regular exercise not only improves your physical ability to deal with stress, it also serves as a psychological relaxer.
I had one patient who was highly stressed, dangerously stressed, and he began to walk in the evenings with his wife. and his situation improved dramatically and almost immediately.
I've had many patients with problems with stress, and many of them have been successful in taking up any kind of physical exercise or meditation, even frisbee tossing. Now, several things probably contribute to their stress reduction. Among its many benefits, exercise itself reduces stress and builds the body's ability to tolerate it. Exercise lowers blood sugar and improves fitness, and lowers your resting pulse rate. By lowering your resting pulse rate, the person is more resistant to stresses that would otherwise raise the pulse rate to harmful levels. Equally important, perhaps, is that these people have taken up new activities, they have new friends, and new ways to break free of stressful environments. And while it may be surprising to some, meditation really does work.
Meditation is one way to actively switch on your body's relaxation response. Other ways to bring about this beneficial state include deep breathing, Tai Chi, massage, soothing music, and prayer.
Biofeedback experiments have shown that people truly do have the ability to control their own relaxation responses. From looking at the experiences of people doing biofeedback, the key appears to be surprisingly simple. Pleasant thoughts, regular breathing, and quiet relaxation.
Our model of stress is a psychobiological one, but human psychology is complex and sometimes very surprising. While we don't have perfect control of either the circumstances and events of our lives or the biology we've inherited,